in the face of major obstacles, there, got that one out. The worst thing you can do is panic and freak out. You know, you got to stay cool, collected. You got to fight. You can't sit there and, you know, cry in fetal position in the corner of the room. And a lot of people do. They just like white flag, defeat. I'm fucked. Sorry. I guess this is where my road ends. And that's just, you know, that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is go, all right, so this sucks. Let's plan how to get the fuck out of it.
Right.
And once we're out of it, let's look back and examine what the hell just happened and figure out how I can make sure it never happens again.
All right, Steven, man, welcome to the Midi Money Podcast. Appreciate you coming on.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So I'm sure, you know, our audience is mainly producers. I'm sure the vast majority of them are very familiar with Slate Audio and Slate Digital and all the stuff you do. But can you just give, you know, quick background on who you are and what you do?
Sure. I started in the industry. Actually, I started working in studios when I was only 14 or 15. But I started making my own audio products in around 2005 when I started making drum samples when I moved to Los Angeles. And that started my first company, which was Steven Slate Drums. And I was making, you know, acoustic drum samples for a lot of big producers back then. That company has kept going. And hell, even today, we have Steven Slate Drums 5.5 in here in 2020 that's doing really well.
Congrats.
Also in that company is a product called Trigger, which has become quite a popular drum replacer. We ended up making some cool hardware with that division, which now we call Steven Slate Audio. That's under all that division. And we make something called the Raven, which is a cool touchscreen production console. It's
so dope. It's so cool looking.
On the other side, or sometime around 2010, I met a guy named Fabrice Gabriel, and we started a different pro audio company called Slate Digital. And we make a whole bunch of cool plugins. We have a cool online education course called Slate Academy. We make sample packs. We do all kinds of fun stuff. Oh, and we make microphones. And then bouncing back to Steven Slate Audio, we recently just came out with another cool product. It's called VSX. It's a headphone that models pro studios and speakers. So I guess you can sum it up in a lot of audio, pro audio, music, mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, you make cool toys for people who make music, basically hardware, software, all that kind of stuff.
I like that description a lot better than audio mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, man. No, it's super impressive. I mean, you guys have some of the coolest stuff. Like the Raven. The first time I remember my boy Vidal, who's got one now, was showing it to me. I was like, this thing is so cool, you know? And I remember, you know, looking at mics and like, oh yeah, the mic that you guys make, it just makes sense. Like, actually, maybe can you explain what that is? Like, it's so dope because it's basically the idea is with this one relatively non-expensive mic, you can make it sound like all these expensive mics, right?
Yeah, when I was like 21, I was working at this pro studio in Boston, and we had this pretty big local artist coming, and I had to do a microphone shootout for this artist. So we brought out a bunch of microphones. We brought out a U47, a C12, a Telefunken 251, and what am I forgetting? And a U67, or maybe it was an M49. But the point is,
the big boys that you'll pretty much see at most of the big studios, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the singer would go to each mic and do a quick test, and then the producer would go, okay, that one doesn't sound good on her. That one doesn't sound good. That one sounds great. And these microphones, if you were to try to purchase all these mics, it would literally cost you over $100,000. But these are classic microphones for a reason, because they all have such a famous sonic signature to them. And I was just one of those guys who would leave that session, go to my little home studio in Roxbury, Mass, and be like, man, why can't I have those cool toys? I mean, you bring up that word, cool toys. Right. I was always envious of the cool toys. I can never afford the cool toys. So VMS brings the cool toys to the masses, and it does it by using a really hi-fi linear sounding microphone. And then we model all the sounds and the sonic signatures of these famous microphones in digital. So with this one microphone, and you can get a singer to come up to this mic and sing something, you can listen to it on a virtual version of a U47, on a virtual version of a C12, a virtual version of a 251, and you can find out whichever is the best for that source.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. I've listened to the AB, and anybody who's listening here can hop on, wherever and go check out some of the AB.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's super dope.
Thank you,
So
man. Appreciate it.
yeah, man. So how did you get into that? I feel like, and I'm not sure, but I feel like a lot of times people don't start there. Like, I think for a lot of people it starts, like for me, like I still make beats, I still am in music, but like my path is a little bit more now on the business side of things, the marketing side of things, and teaching producers and creatives about that side of things and kind of handling that. But I started out more on the creative side. Was that your journey as well?
Yeah, I was in bands, man. Yeah, I was in bands as a musician, did some touring, tried to do the whole rock star life, and then I just realized it wasn't for me. I mean,
Yeah.
mostly because I wasn't that good, but but I tried, and I realized that on the other side of the glass was where I was meant to be. And I started producing more records. And then once I got really into the producing and mixing and engineering game, that's when I kind of fell into the pro audio developer side. Just by, again, I was making these drum samples and it just kind of took off. I mean, when I came to LA, I actually just wanted to be the protege of a really well-known producer and mixer. And I just wanted to, so I'd sneak into a bunch of Hollywood, music industry parties, and I would hand out my drum sample CD to all these big producers and mixers, hoping they would go, "Hey, man, there's a motivated young chap. Come be my assistant." And then I would be this famous producer's assistant, and then I would work my way up the ranks. And it just didn't happen because no one wanted me to be their assistant, but they did want more drum samples. So I'm like, all right, well, at least I got a gig doing something in music. And then the drum samples kind of turned into something big.
Yeah, no, it's so funny. It's like so many people I talk to, it's some version of that. Like there's sort of this thing that you assume you want to do, you're going to be doing, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, shit, I guess I got to like learn this other thing, or maybe this other thing that's going to be a stepping stone eventually to that. And then all of a sudden you realize, wait a second, this thing is like really fun, or this thing is catching on. This is the thing that people want, and you just kind of keep going down that path. The next thing you know, it's opened up all these different, ideas and doors and stuff that you wouldn't have expected. So it's cool to hear that was, same for you.
The cool thing about it is it's all the same thing. It's all creating art, whether I'm creating a piece of music, whether I'm producing a piece of music, or whether I'm creating a product. It's an art, So it all
definitely
felt very natural to me. We've been working on that headphone I'm still working on it. We're about to come out with an update, but it's like you got a bunch of different songwriters. I got my hardware teams, my software teams. We're all collaborating on this. Instead of collaborating on a piece of music or a beat, we're collaborating on a headphone. And
totally.
I think it's just as rewarding. So
no, agreed. It's something that I've seen too, or like I feel like the years and years that I spent really just on the music side of things, of just producing and engineering, really prepared me for all the, for me, it's more the marketing side of things, but to me, that's art too. Like that is so much fun. Like, okay, what's the journey the customer's going to go on? It's like similar to like a song, and like, what's the emotion I want to evoke here? What's the next step going to look like? Putting it together, working with a team, just like the way that I'm, when you're making a song, which like you said, is like working with different people and figuring out, okay, how can I motivate this person, or how can I get excited about, all of that is just the art of putting something together. And the result is maybe it's a song, maybe it's software or hardware, maybe it's a marketing campaign, a funnel, whatever it is. But it's that same creative process, and just being a problem solver, and just being like, okay, like most humans are going to like give up, but I have this like weird thing in my brain where I'm just going to keep trying and I'm going to keep figuring it out. And I feel like that's what, as producers, we have, as musicians, we kind of have that naturally.
Yeah, man.
For sure. So, I'm curious, like for now you're like where you're at. What would you kind of like looking back? Is there anything that you would have told yourself in those early days where you're, at those parties, that would have been some advice that you wish you had heard at that time? Something that could have maybe helped speed things up or make you, help your mindset, anything like that?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I always think to myself along this journey of just making products. There have been some catastrophes. And when these catastrophes are happening, let's say it's, in 2014, the factory that made my Raven touchscreens had an earthquake and we had no product for 11 months, stuff like that. Back in the old days, I mean, when I say old days, I mean like 2009, a major retailer ordered several thousand drum DVDs, and all the DVDs came corrupt. And I think back, and when these moments are happening, your tendency is to panic and become emotional, and you make the worst decisions when you're panicked and emotional. So now, granted, I handled a lot of these pretty well in retrospect, but I think the thing I can tell people is that, in the face of adversity, I can't say the fucking word.
Adversity.
Adversity. Thank you. It's been a long day of coding.
I get it.
In the face of major obstacles, there, I got that one out. The worst thing you can do is panic and freak out. You got to stay cool, collected. You got to fight. You can't sit there and, cry in fetal position in the corner of the room. And a lot of people do. They just like white flag, defeat. I'm fucked. Sorry. I guess this is where my road ends. And that's just, that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is go, all right, so this sucks. Let's plan how to get the fuck out of it.
Right.
And once we're out of it, let's look back and examine what the hell just happened and figure out how I can make sure it never happens again. I think that's something that I would like to tell my younger self. Not to say that I didn't have a few situations where I think I handled it well and fought hard, but everything in the moment feels so drastic, and it feels so like hell is about to come and fall on your face. But looking back at those situations, you get through it, you move on.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, to me, it's so much of what I've seen when I've had success, or I've seen other people have success. So much of it just comes down to just sticking with it and not giving up, because like you said, the first bad thing happens and now you're frustrated, or this doesn't work, or it's never going to happen for me, or whatever. It's really just sticking with it. A lot of times the people who are successful just have that mindset. It's not necessarily the most talented or the most, whatever. It's the people who stick with it, So I think that's huge.
I mean, you got to stay cool. You don't make decisions when you're not cool. When you're frantic and you're freaking out and you're upset and you're mad at someone because they fucked something up, that's when you make really, really bad decisions.
Right.
So go outside, take a walk, take a break, get some air, do some yoga, meditate, smoke a joint, whatever it takes. Don't make decisions while frantic. Stop freaking out. Figure your shit out. Dust yourself off.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's easy to get emotional, and it's natural, and it's fine. But I think, like you said, it's like, okay, am I going to make a decision based off emotion? No, like let me zoom out, let me chill out for a minute, let me kind of look at the big picture.
It's not just easy to get emotional; it's natural to get emotional.
Yeah.
We are instinctual primate beings that get emotional, and we get triggered by things, and as guys, we have this testosterone running through our bodies, and we get angry easy, we get emotional easy, and we get defensive easy, and you really got to take a step back. And it's something I'm still in the learning process of doing that. I'm not going to claim to be some guru who can separate myself from my emotions, but I'll tell you, I sometimes try real hard. And it becomes easier if you understand your own biology and understand what's happening. Say, okay, well, hey, I'm getting really pissed at this person because they just wrote me this email firing off a bunch of shit. And yes, that's triggering this thing in me called anger. And I want to tell them to, fuck off. But, I'm just going to understand that that's my natural reaction, but not the best reaction. It's not the most thoughtful reaction. It's not the most rational reaction. A better reaction would be to understand where he's coming from or she's coming from, and try to understand that, be sympathetic to that, maybe even compassionate to that, and fire off something that's going to take them off their guard and get me where I need to go.
Yeah, no, that's like another layer deeper too, is having that bigger perspective and having that empathy too, to be like, all right, well, you know what? Like at first it just like, well, this person or whatever the situation is just against me. You know what I mean? But a lot of times you zoom out and you're like, okay, I see from their perspective, this is what it looks like. Let me approach it this way. So I think that's really smart. And you mentioned it's something you're still working on. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a lifelong practice for all of us.
You're damn right. Always going to be a lifelong practice. As much, I look at it this way. I try to think of it almost as this. There's a place called the Magic Castle here in LA. Before the pandemic, it was a place I'd often like to go every once in a while because all the best magicians in the world would go there and do shows and practice there. I mean, really, really big names, and just the best of the best. And every once in a while I'd go there and I'd see this magician do this trick. And I'd be like, how the fuck did he do that? Like, how is that done? And one day I started, I had a friend who was really good friends with this magician who did this crazy, crazy illusion. And I'm partying with this magician afterwards. And for whatever reason, he tells me how he did it. I saw behind the curtain. And then fast forward 6 months later, I go back to that same Magic Castle and he's back and he does that same show. And I watch him do the same trick. Now, 6 months previous to this, I saw him do this trick and my jaw was on the floor. But for whatever reason, he broke magician's code, told me how the trick was done. And the second time watching it, it was such a different experience because I knew the mechanics behind it. I knew the secrets. And it was easier to separate myself and not be so amazed. The same trick, different result, because I knew something more. And it's almost like if you know that why your body reacts and why your brain reacts the way it does and how your instincts work and how your biology works to certain situations. It's almost like learning, it's almost like knowing how the magician does his secret, how he does his trick. And if you know that, it makes it easier to manage. You see what I'm saying? It's like, okay, this guy just fired me off an email and told me to fuck myself and that my product sucks and that he's only going to order X amount or this happened or this one employee's doing this or something's going there. And, I'm like, all right, well, I can see that normally I would react in this certain way and I'd be pissed and be angry. And I know that, he said this one word, which is a personal jab, and this would normally trigger in me some type of hostile defensive reaction. I see that all happening, but I know how the trick is done. I know all this is happening. I can separate myself from it. So now the reaction is quite different because the secret's going on. What's happening, and I think it makes it easier.
I like that. Yeah, that's really interesting because it is kind of it is like magic, right? Like when you're in the middle of it, you feel like you are that emotion. Like I am anger, I am whatever. But if you can kind of like look behind the scenes, like, okay, I recognize there's a pattern here. When this kind of thing happens, it triggers this response in me. It's like you're seeing the trick, and then you can detach yourself a little emotionally and make a rational decision. I think that's really smart.
You said before, zoom out, detach, examine from a rational point of view. You almost really have to separate yourself into two different beings.
Yeah. It's like you're observing yourself, which you have to kind of separate out. I'm curious. So, with all that, like that's a lot of self-awareness. Do you have a like specific practice? Like, do you have like a morning routine or I don't know, something that kind of gets you in touch with it? Do you meditate? Anything that kind of keeps you on track with that type of stuff?
Not really. The only thing I have, to be honest with you, that kind of triggers me back in my mind, believe it or not, is I have a tattoo that says "Be Kind" right on my hand.
Nice.
And that centers me so many times where it's like that just reminds me, wait a minute. You're not this person. You're making bad decisions. This is going to lead you to bad places. Separate yourself and do it with kindness. And that's kind of my mantra. You do a lot better in life when you're kind to people. That's not to say that I'm always kind to people, but I certainly try to be.
I like it. Okay. So like to get to where you are, to be, Slate, it seems like it takes a lot of balls, like to be like, hey, I'm going to create hardware. I'm going to create software. I'm going to create this thing where like, I'm sure when I first came across Slate, I was like, oh yeah, Slate. It's like, whatever. It's like a Kai. It's like, whatever. It's just like it's like some corporation that just magically, does stuff. I didn't really think about it. Like, what do you think gave you the confidence to be like, you know what, I think I'm going to like go up against all these huge companies and create hardware and software that, is going up against them. And I guess in a lot of cases, and I don't know if this relates to your original intention there or not, but it's actually like modeling those things. And I assume there's some relationship there, but I guess the first question is more about the confidence thing to just even have the audacity to do that kind of stuff.
That's a good question. And I think the answer comes first in understanding holes in the industry where you really feel like there's something that you can solve. And I think it starts off with being experienced in the business and knowing that, hey, I know that there's a situation here where there's a problem, and I really think it needs a solution. So that's step one, with really believing that what you are doing is solving a problem. Because if you don't believe that, you're already starting from 6 feet under, man. You know, you have to believe that what you are doing is actually going to solve a problem and be a solution for someone, because no one is going to buy jack shit from you if you are not solving a problem and providing an undeniable benefit for their life. You know, you've never bought anything that wasn't somehow an undeniable benefit. Like, for instance, like I like this game. Try to name one thing you've bought that didn't provide an undeniable benefit with very minimal risk.
I mean, I'm just looking around, looking at my phone, I'm looking at my laptop, I'm looking at my backpack, my shoes, like
even the plants behind you provide an undeniable benefit because they look nice. You got nice lighting on them. They provide a great backdrop for your podcast. There's an undeniable benefit there. If you didn't have those, your backdrop would look rather boring, if I may say it, but it doesn't. Sure. You did a great job. You know, so it's got to be an undeniable benefit. So the first thing first is just really creating a solution that you are confident will end up being an undeniable benefit for your market. And then the second thing is the harder part, which is commitment. You have to commit to that concept and commit to that idea. And commitment does not mean half-ass. It doesn't mean, you know, I'll commit, you know, these hours of the day and not these others. Commitment really means that this is your fucking life. You are going to do this and you're going to do it perfectly, and you're not going to take, you know, no prisoners, man. Like, this is what you got to do. And you got to do it perfect, because if it's not perfect, it's not the undeniable solution with the undeniable benefit. It's not a solution with it that's an undeniable benefit. So you just have to commit. And once you commit to it, everything is so much easier. Everything's less scary. It's like, no, I'm going to fucking do this. I've got the team. I've got the technology. I've got the research. Everything is happening because I'm committed to making a product that actually does solve this problem. And, you know, we just released the VSX headphones on October 1st. And, you know, after the release, 2 or 3 of the speakers, I was testing them out. And I said, you know what? They're good, but I identified a few problems. So I'm still tweaking the product even after it's released, and it's going to be an update, and it's going to be even better.
Right.
You know, it's going to be even better. And it's because I'm committed. Even post-release, I'm committed. If you buy this product, you know there is a team behind this that wants it to be the absolute perfection, best thing ever that it can be for you.
Powerful. No, I think there's 2 major points that I see that I think is super powerful. One is that, you know, thinking about the person you're serving, that I think your term was undeniable benefit, right? That it's going to serve them, that they're, you know, like you said, nobody's going to buy something if it doesn't have that. And I think so often people start with, well, I want to create this product, not, hey, I want to solve this problem for this person. And then the product is the product of that. Does that make sense? So instead of most people approach, you know, even for me, like when I started, like, well, I make beats, so I want to figure out how to sell beats. And like, I didn't do that great. And then I started thinking, okay, well, let me think about who is my customer in this case. Okay, it's rappers and singers. Well, how can I serve them more? Maybe I can, you know, offer them different products and services. Maybe I can frame it in a way that's going to make it more beneficial than the literally millions of other producers who are just selling beats. And then that's when things started really taking off. I think that one's huge, is really thinking about that person and the result first. And then your product is like the thing that does that, not, oh, I want to sell this product, let me figure out how to do it.
Right.
I think that's huge. And then the other thing you said was that commitment to it. And that's interesting. It's like, once you commit, it's actually easier, because like, well, I made the decision. I don't have to think about it again. I already made the decision. So maybe it's going to seem impossible. It's going to seem hard. I got to overcome, you know, all these little setbacks or roadblocks, or huge setbacks and roadblocks, you know, things that seem devastating, but hey, I already committed. So it's not even a choice at this point. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And then do it perfect. And clearly you have like this real commitment to creating the best products ever. I think that's huge. And also I want to give like a little, what's the word? I don't know, caveat or something, where I don't want somebody listening to this think like, okay, well, like I shouldn't do anything until it's perfect. Cause I think that can be its own form of holding people back. Like, I'm not going to release my music. I'm not going to release this funnel or whatever until it's perfect. It's like, well, you even said it, the way it becomes perfect is you get it as good as you think it can be right now. Then you put it out, then you get the feedback, then you iterate and keep making it better and better. So you don't wait till it's perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
I see no problem with iterating as long as you are confident that what you're doing is the best you can do at that time and you
right.
feel good about it. Yeah, I mean, obviously sometimes I'd like to release stuff and never have to mess with it again. But I mean, I'm not afraid to. And if you're committed to it and you feel it's necessary, that's okay too.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And it depends what you're doing, right? If you're putting out music, keep putting out more music. You know what I mean? Like don't put it out if you think it's garbage, obviously, but at a certain point, the way that you figure out if it's good is by putting it out and getting the feedback and then making it better, making the next one better. So whether if it is software or hardware, music or samples or beats or whatever it is, I just feel like that has to be part of the process. Otherwise, some people get stuck of like, well, the next batch is going to be even better, so I'm not even going to put this out. Well, the next batch is going to be better. You know what I mean?
I mean, you can't get anywhere if you just are too afraid to, put stuff out there. You got to, at some point, you got to put it out there. I mean, that goes without saying.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm curious, what's your personal relationship with social media? Because I know, like, as a company, you guys do great. You guys do, giveaways and whatever. You got pretty decent presence and all that good stuff. What is it for you? Like, are you scrolling through Instagram a lot? Do you not really touch it?
No, I'm trying to get better at it. I've got my own Instagram thing, Steven_Slate. And, I'm trying to I'm actually sitting in the room right now that we're building a little home, setup with, so I can do more interactive tutorials and do more stuff for my channel. It's been difficult lately just because, especially with, a lot of the products I'm doing for both Slate Digital and Steven Slate Audio, they take up so much of my time that it's been hard. And I've got a social media manager, and half the time I'm just stealing posts from my two different companies because they just do the work for me. But social media is obviously very important. It's important for my personal brand too, and I want to keep strengthening that because that makes a lot of sense. And I'm actually in the process of working towards improving my social media. And having said that, when it comes to Facebook and stuff, we've got a great group called Slate Audiophiles. Actually, it's a customer created group that's got over 50,000 members, and I'm always there talking shop, and that's a lot of fun. Nice.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's I agree. I do think it's so important. Obviously, right? Everybody talks about personal brand and social media, and it is. I do think it's huge, and I do think it's important. And then it's also interesting. Like, I do think there is a point of diminishing returns. Like where we had no focus on brand for a while, and it was just let's build the funnel, let's build the product, and we did okay, we did fine. And then it was like, all right, let's build some brand, on top of this. Let's put out some content. And so then we kind of went all in on that, you know what I mean? And putting, new post every day, repurposing things everywhere. And there's definitely a lot of positive benefits. And I think it's important. But then we also realized, wait a second, we're putting so much time, energy, effort, creativity into just this content. What if instead of 7 days a week, we did 3 days a week? That would, we'd spend half the amount of time and money and effort and stuff. And we did it. And it was like about the same return, more or less. So I think there is a balance in there. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I feel like everybody talks about the one side of it, like you just need to do more content and more whatever. And it's like, yes, absolutely. And most people probably aren't doing enough, but there is also like a sweet spot there. I don't know. Sure. I don't know if you've come across that I imagine your time is probably better spent,
also has to be good quality content too. I try to just, what I noticed is that, especially with my personal channel, they like personal stuff. They like showing real personality, interacting with people. I mean, whenever I do a post where I'm just videotaping myself yapping about something, even if I'm just yapping about a sale of a product. Actually, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I put out a post that was a Black Friday sale post for Steven Slate Drums 5.5. It's 66% off. Put the post out, really nice graphic. My graphics guys are so good. Put this kind of little funny caption, crickets. No one gave a shit. And I saw that. And I'm like, And I took my phone, put it on a little tripod, and I said, hey guys, Steven Slate Drums is 66% off. It's the lowest price in history. Get it. Blew up.
Right.
Because
they connected with you talking.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, there's a personal connection there. There's the dude who makes the shit talking to them directly about the stuff that he likes. And there was obviously something there. I wasn't even at a good time. I posted it last night at 9, 10 p.m. It was ridiculous, but it did well. And it just reinforced the fact that, you know, I got to get my act together and start doing more of that stuff. It's not that I don't like it. It's just I don't have the time. And that's why, you know, I had my media team come to my house since we're not in the office due to COVID. And we're setting up this little area here where I'm just gonna be able to pump these things out. And I'm looking forward to it. Should be good.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's, you know, same for me, where it's like, I know I should be doing more of it, and it's not what I naturally do. Actually, it's a big part of the reason why I started this podcast was it's a way to, you know, create content in a way that feels natural. Like, I mean, I want to talk to Steven Slate. I want to have a conversation with you. So great, let's do that. Let's record it. And now we can repurpose it and at least have, you know, something consistent on the content side. Of course, at the same time, I should be just hopping on IG stories and doing more of that. Right. But I think sometimes being able to do something that you can build into your routine is really helpful, where it's better to do something consistently than trying to do the perfect thing for a couple of weeks and, you know, giving up and like, oh yeah, I should be on IG stories a few times a day. And it's like, just for me, it's tough for me. I'm not going to naturally do it, but having something kind of built in, at least for me, that's been super helpful. We had a couple people who had some questions for you. At brainstorm_beats was asking, what inspires you the most?
What inspires me the most is feedback from my customers about how our products are making them better results, give them better results, make them happy. You know, I give this speech a lot to my team, to my employees, to my guys, to girls, that, you know, what we do is we make products that help people perfect their art, and that art makes them happy. So to that degree, we are kind of creating a little bit of happiness for people. That's kind of the business we're in, you know. Nice. We're in the business of creating happiness. And that's what really inspires me, that people are happy because we're allowing them, enabling them, empowering them to do something that makes them, you know, feel rewarded.
Nice. What could be better than that? I love it. So you mentioned, you know, that you've given that speech to your team. I'm curious as far as your team, your company, how it's evolved. I imagine from those early days to now that your role and what you're doing has evolved a lot. And I'm curious about what are some of the different stages of that and how you've approached that, you know, those transitions for you personally and your role.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as you hire more talented people, they do a lot more stuff and you start to oversee more stuff and become more of a manager. In my case, in Steven Slate Audio, I'm still very much a product designer and engineer. In Slate Digital, I'm less so these days. I'm more of just a manager. But I mean, hell, rewind back to 2008. I was the guy who's packaging up the CDRs and bringing them to the post office. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah, that's interesting. So you are still, you said on the Slate Audio side, you're still doing a lot of the actual design and stuff?
On Steven Slate Audio, I did a lot of the groundwork for VSX. Got it. I still do a great deal of stuff for Slate Digital, but not nearly as much.
Yeah. And how's that for you? I know, I mean, I'll just say for me, it's, you know, it's changed so much from I was just the dude making beats and engineering to now it's like figuring out how to hire and manage a team and think, you know, it's just a completely different skill set. It's like I had to become a different person, you know, in a lot of ways and level up. And
you have to learn how to run a business and run a team and hire and fire and expand and learn and adapt. I mean, these are things that, you know, business 101 is really just doing it, boots on the ground. And then, you know, I think there's no better business education than the one where you actually run a business.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's no, like, you can't get that in a classroom. It just comes, you know, a lot, you know, I will say I've read a lot and I've been a part of coaching programs and a lot of stuff that I've gotten a lot of value out of. But even those things on their own aren't going to do it if I'm not actively doing the work. I'm not, you know, experiencing it. It's so different. Even the time, like I'll read a book and then I'll read it again a few years later. And even that is such a different experience because now I'm in a completely different place. So I like learn something different from it. But it's only because I got the actual experience, like you said, that really did it. And so, okay. So so I'll mention the classroom. Got another question. This is at infinitebeats.music. He said, do you recommend going to school for audio engineering? How do you feel about, like, you know, Full Sail and Expressions, those types of schools?
Great schools, very great programs. Full Sail's amazing. Blackbird's amazing. SAE's amazing. It really just depends on the kind of thing you're looking into. I mean, some people are just really more independent and just want to work by just doing it and getting in there and taking online education classes like Slate Academy, which is really great. And some people want it a little more formal where there's a little bit more structure, like a Full Sail or an SAE. So, it's very depending on the individual. I'd say there's certainly nothing wrong with going to a Full Sail. It's an amazing program, or a Blackbird is another amazing program where you're very hands-on, and there's some great experiences you can gain from programs like that. And I know some Full Sail graduates who've gone on to do huge things. Dylan Dresdow, for one.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's one of those things where, like, for me, if I could have that experience, where maybe you're in a situation where you're lucky enough that somebody's going to pay for that for you or something, like, absolutely do it. Like 100%. Like, why not? You'll get that experience. You'll get to go meet people and stuff like that. I would worry about, like, do you really want to be in that type of debt? Like, are you getting the return on it? And I feel like for every one or two of the stories of the people who have gone on to do big things, I know so many who went that route and are looking at, people who didn't and wishing that, maybe they hadn't spent that money.
Look, some of these schools are expensive, and you have to figure out, if there's going to be an ROI on that investment.
Yeah, which is tough.
It's a personal journey.
Yeah, I mean, that's even just school in general, just going to college, for anything. It's kind of like, man, you got to figure out if it makes sense for you. Because for some people it's great and it's the best thing. And some people it's like they're carrying that debt for the rest of their lives, and it was just not worth it. So I think it just depends on the situation. Yeah. Man, what you got coming up? I know you got the Black Friday sale on the drums. What else? What are you excited about? What are you working on?
Well, we've got like a flurry of new products coming out for Slate Digital. We just launched today a free sample packs, free EDM sample pack, free 808 sample pack. And these packs were designed and created by some of the top sound designers in the business. Amazing drum samples, the best 808s, all kinds of great samples. We've got a few different influencers kind of creating full beats based on just these samples alone, and they're all freaking out because it's really good shit, and it's free. So check out at slatedigital.com. Then we got a bunch of new software plugins coming out from Slate Digital that we're announcing. The drum software is on sale. VSX it's sold out, so you can't get that, but you'll be able to get that again in January. And lots of stuff happening.
Exciting. It's we were talking right before this. It's just like, man, it's this time of year. I know for me, I imagine for you guys too. It's just like, there's so much going on that it's super fun and exciting. And it's also just like putting out a million fires and dealing with a bunch of stuff, but it's the game we play, right? It's why we do this. It's what did you say? It's giving people a little bit of happiness, or how'd you say it?
It's just, producing a little bit of happiness for people.
Love it. Cool. Well, man, let's end it on that note. Really appreciate you taking the time. What's the best place for people to find you? I know you mentioned a couple of spots, but what's what are some good places?
So my personal place is Steven_Slate, and then my two companies are at Slate Digital and at Slate Audio.
Steven, appreciate you.
Thanks so much, man.
All right, man.